singer-songwriter, and I actually went back to school 2 years ago to get my master's in community music, and part of my final project was this. The basis of the project began when I was working up north with First Nations flying communities for the past 10 years and became aware of the Truth and Reconciliation report around 2012. And then I went back to school to get my Master's of Community Music at Laurier because of my friend Dawn, who also went to, well, you could tell.
We are both partners in education, I guess you could say. I also am a graduate of the Master of Arts in Community Music at Laurier. And for the last 10 to 12 years, Glenn and I have been partners in creative projects, of which this is one.
We just decided to do a project called the Sacred Canoe, which is based on the premise of the Canada being opened up through early exploration with the canoe and First Nations working in partnership with settlers and explorers, and then comparing it to using the Sacred Canoe to reopen Canada spiritually in partnership with First Nations people and answer specific calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation report. The Sacred Canoe is a four-part representation of our Canadian history, starting with early exploration in partnership with the settlers, which led to the fur trade and the opening up of Canada physically with the canoe, to Confederation, when First Nations people's rights were first started to be taken away from them with the passing of the Indian Act and the creation of a residential school system. The third part examines the residential school system in greater detail, which illustrates and talks about how First Nations children were taken from their parents at a very young age, had their heritage taken away, their hair cut, their clothes burned. It was a cultural genocide, to the healing of the Truth and Reconciliation report and commission in 2011. We did this in partnership with the First Nations elder Todd Jameson, who guided the visual arts component of this, and with the incredible musicianship of Jacob Charles, a drummer and singer from Georgina Island, and his group Charging Horse Drummers, who taught our students here from Sacred Heart how to drum and sing in First Nations style, the traditions behind it, and the culture behind it. It was a true partnership. It was a beautiful partnership.
It's just me, no one else. You can't force me to be like you. Put me on a reservation. I will be me, I will be free. Where is our history? It's a part of us that you can see. Matashka Wanaganya, Magana Magwan to see you free. Will help me Jawabdamana.
At a certain point in the project, we were very fortunate to welcome in the visual arts expertise of Julie Colucci, who is a visual arts teacher at Sacred Heart Catholic High School and who actually directed not only the bulk of the design of the canoe with students herself, but also directed the concepts and I guess you could say, the process behind the 150 plus pieces of art that we created at the art gallery.
Yes. It all started from the Sacred Canoe, but then from that we kind of wanted to develop artwork for the gallery. So it started off with the school etchings. We collected several images from Wabukwe, a First Nations reserve, and we had the students etch into plexiglass to create the etchings for the art pieces. Along with that, I actually collected First Nation stories from students from Inuit School, and from those stories I had my grade 11 students produce artwork that illustrated those stories, which was nice to see because you can see the connections of a family being told through the paintings, and that was really expressed through their stories when we read them. And then as we also had guest speaker Todd Jameson come in to express his work of art and how he did a lot of his paintings and what the concept was behind it, and focused on a lot of the spiritual aspects of his paintings. So we had the grade 11 students, grade 9 students as well, to create birth totems, and that you'll also see in the gallery as well. And we continued on the excitement of creating artwork, and we went on to the grade 11 or grade 10 visual arts class, and they created pastel drawings with the same photographs from Quebecois, and that you'll see in the gallery as well.
And the music for this song and some of the lyrics were written by my good friend Evan Chartley. When we placed the lyrics in front of him, just left him there for half an hour, and then he came back with the riff and the intro riff that you'll hear. He's a very talented musician, dancer, singer, and a leader in his community. There is no place like home. You have it in your heart. Since the day you were born, you got to hold on. It's the spirit of the North. My heart is my compass. One step at a time. One step at a time. I want to see myself proud. I want to see myself strong.
One of the key things of the project was using authentic voice to guide us. So we followed the, I guess, model of consent first, or consultation first before consent. So there was quite extensive consultation with all of our partners prior to receiving consent to work on the project, and really being guided in how to do this respectfully and properly. And that was an incredible part of this project.
It was, and I think that was a key, the backbone of the project for the students as well, was looking at the difference between creating and cultural appropriation. And so there were many really enriching and relevant discussions that happened on the difference between creating for a culture or with a culture or as inspired by a culture and cultural appropriation. And so we called them canoe conversations, which happened usually with under the guidance or mentorship of Todd Jameson, who has been one of certainly the visual arts and overseeing mentor of this project.
Hello, my name is Todd Jameson. I'm a member of the United Nations of the Thames, and I was brought in as a project mentor for the art classes at Sacred Heart School, and became part of this project quite by accident, and am now it's growing into be more of a job and a piece that will help with truth and reconciliation. I came in originally just as an art mentor to do a one-time art class, and it's a way of sharing our culture with theirs, about the ideals of being a native artist and where we get our ideas and spiritualism from. And it progressed as the classes went on. I also got the opportunity to see the projects finished, which I normally don't get. I'm a one-time visit. The projects get finished 2 and 3 weeks later, and I normally don't get to see the finished product. So I felt very blessed to be able to come in and spend time. The students took to it very quickly. It was something that it meant something to them, and you could see it right away. It came out of their hearts and their hands, not their eyes. So I think that they are embracing our culture and the spiritualism and the ideals that we have towards our culture and sharing our culture. So again, I feel very blessed that I get the opportunity every day to share that.
My name is Sepper Raybod. I am a student at York University, and for the Sacred Canoe project, I was a dramaturg and facilitator of the drama pieces, and also I wrote a spoken word piece for the missing and murdered Indigenous women on the Highway of Tears. We did a dramatization of the debate that never happened, which was a theoretical conversation, or I should say a debate between Johnny MacDonald and sort of his people and the government that he represented, and the First Nations tribe and the Indigenous people who never had a voice. And so what we did was we took actual quotations from Johnny MacDonald and Chief Seattle, and we put them together into a script. So all of the words that were spoken were real, written, documented words from both sides.
We acquired the Northwest country in 1870. Yes! Not a life was lost, not a pound, nor a dollar was spent in warfare. I have not hesitated to tell this House again and again that we could not always hope to maintain peace with the Indians, that the savage is still a savage, and until he ceased to be savage, we were always in danger of a collision, in danger of war, in danger of an outbreak.
When I tried to rule my people, I was stripped of my authority.
The great aim of our legislation has been to do away with the tribal system and assimilate the Indian people in all respects with the other inhabitants of the Dominion as speedily as they are fit to change.
We have done all we could to put them on themselves.
That we have.
We have done all we could to make them work as agriculturalists.
We have done all that we could by supply of cattle, agricultural implements, and instruction to change them from a nomadic to an agricultural life.
Yes. Strongly impressed upon myself.
The head of the department!
Indian children should be withdrawn as much as possible from the parental influence. And the only way to do that would be to put them in central training industrial schools,
where they will learn the habits and mode of thought of white men. The voice of my grandmother said to me, "Teach your children what you have been taught."
The earth is our mother. What befalls the earth befalls all the sons and daughters of the earth.
We're here with some of the students who did the visual arts on the design of the canoe. You could introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
I'm Haley.
And I'm Crystal.
Sophia, what was your role in the project?
I was one of the designers and a painter from the canoe.
Haley, what was your role in the project?
I was one of the students who helped paint the canoe.
Okay. Crystal, what did you do?
I was also one of the students who helped paint the canoe.
This is the sacred canoe that we've been talking about, and we started the design of the process for the canoe. It was about 3 weeks before even beginning to paint the sacred canoe and finalize the image. The process began with sitting down at after school, thinking of a plan and where to go, and talking to Todd Jameson and getting his kind of his say and his approval before even beginning to come up with a finalized design.
We couldn't just do it from our experience, because what do we know about their culture? We had to listen to the authentic voices, and it was quite a pleasure. It was really fascinating to listen to Todd, to Jacob, who was a hand drum mentor. He worked with my class, in particular Miss Kameli's World Issues class. It was really interesting to have him teach us how to chant and how to hand drum. He came in and talked about his experiences, and we had Susie Miller.
Susie Miller, she actually inspired us with the title of the Sacred Canoe. She came to speak to our school about the history of the wampum belt, and which we've included into our sacred canoe. It's the two-row treaty belt, and this was a major piece, and that's why we wanted to make it the focal point. From there, we kind of moved on, and it guides your eye to the sun. The sun is supposed to express the Mother Nature's face, so that's the representation of her face. And then through the bottom you have the animals, and so water, and then the forest animals, and then from the forest animals it kind of goes out to the wind, so the bird represents wind. We didn't realize that we were doing this, but it's kind of like the circle of life.
Elder Todd Jameson's son, Jacob Jameson, performed an incredible dance in First Nations style that's been modernized and blended with hip-hop to the music of a group called A Tribe Called Red, which is an incredibly powerful part of the play or performance.
Together is to look at the beautiful dynamic that having educational partners in the community can bring a project beyond the walls of the classroom.
Yeah, and Sacred was the great place to do it, so it really just kind of made sense once we started there, because they were extremely welcome environment. The administration was very supportive of it. The school board was extremely supportive of it. So it really just worked well that you actually did move positions to Sacred Heart.
So it was great, and this ended up being a very influential project within the community of the school as well. I know that the English department has courses specializing in First Nation studies in literature and literacy. And so
Isn't it the only school that has that course?
One of a few.
One of the few that has a specific course for First Nation.
Is the killing of villages, death of many people, tribes that were lost. Do they even teach about residential schools nowadays? Do people know about the terrorism that their own government has done to the natives of this country? It's depressing. It's unfair. Some days I feel dead inside. Dead. I don't know my native tongue. I was beaten for speaking my language. My language is vital. It is important. It is what connects me to my history, my culture.
How's it going? My name's Alex.
What did you do on the Sacred Canoe project?
So for the Sacred Canoe, I was actually one of the stage managers alongside a good friend McKenna, who unfortunately couldn't be here today.
Okay. So what stage managing, what does that entail?
So pretty much it's actually kind of complicated. So for stage managers, we're mostly in charge of like moving all the equipment around and making sure the sound is good for all the performers and everything. So pretty much we are the people in charge of setup, takedown, moving in between scenes and stuff to get the best out of the project.
For my children to be free, but I can barely breathe. Tomorrow's what I need. For my children to be free. Tomorrow's what I need.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Sabrina.
Okay, Sabrina, what did you do on the Sacred Canoe project?
Well, part of the Sacred Canoe project, I was doing slam poetry, so that's basically like spoken word, so I wrote some poems.
So you wrote some poetry, so based on what?
My poetry I got to do two within the performance. So the first one was just about their culture before colonialization, so all of their history and their traditions and how it affected it once we got here. Then my second poem, it was about the residential school system and just sort of as if it was from the perspective of someone who had lost a child to this system, and it went from there.
There was nowhere for the white man to land, so we extended a hand to protect him from this fall. Now the fault was on us for being savages, ignorant, nothing like them. The fault was on us for having children they could so easily take. So if our kids wanted a proper life, they would have to find it at the bottom of the lake. Hair cut short, just like his life on a bottle of alcohol is the new ocean to get lost in as a sailor is robbed of his sea legs in his own home. Muskrat was our last hope, sinking farther than light could reach. We needed our child home, but you refused to let our people roam until they are just like you.
I wrote a spoken word slam poem piece called Car Crashes on Highway 16. And I wrote this for the missing and murdered Indigenous women of Canada, but specifically close to the region of the Highway of Tears, which is Highway 16 in British Columbia. And how the poem came to be itself was I started with the image of the Highway of Tears, Highway 16, and I realized that a lot of what happens to the women and the violence that happens to them, that they experience, is very similar to car crashes, and it became very convenient because car crashes happen on highways. So the metaphor kind of ran parallel there, that it happens like that, and they happen so often that people can just notice it and then move on.
Even in July,
The other day I was asked what it means to be Canadian, but before I could open my mouth, like a rescue in reverse, the jaws of life closed on me. My flesh on fire turned to smoke, and my body and concrete melted into one. I disappeared into the highway of tears in deafening silence and in ash. The first electric spark in my brain wanted to shout, "True North strong and free," and bacon, maple syrup, and sometimes bacon with maple syrup, as if there aren't screams trapped under the layers of cement and burnt rubber, as if we didn't bury children under the bloodstained maple leaves and set off fireworks every year on top of the resting places of centuries of mothers. We built our highways on the deforestation of mothers, mothers whose tears fed forests, whose breasts nurtured valleys, whose songs taught the birds to sing, but there ain't no birds singing now.
What did you learn from the project? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like this, you learn a lot from being involved in something like this. And I think that what I learned that was most important was how important it is to get involved, because we've all heard about like reconciliation and how important it is that we acknowledge these problems, but actually being immersed in the culture and being a part of this expression and moving forward, I think that was something really great, and I think that all people need to have that experience as well, and I think that just shows how we need to have these partnerships.
What did you learn from the project? Sophia?
I learned about how inclusive people from the indigenous culture are. They're very willing to immerse us in their culture and teach us about, you know, the things that they have faced over the years, and I really appreciated the opportunity to get to learn their stories.
Thank you. Haley?
I learned that there was so much diversity in one group of people, and there's so much that we don't know, and there's so much that we need to learn about, and there's a lot that we have to do to reach reconciliation, but it's a good start that we've started.
Crystal?
I learned commitment and dedication of all of these people who came together and helped build this project. Like, even though we all have like really busy lives, we all came together in the end to contribute to the Sacred Canoe project.
I also feel very blessed that the group that I'm working with is a conglomerate of community members, First Nation members, teachers, students, and it shows me that through Truth and Reconciliation, it has to come both ways, and I'm finding that both sides are more than willing to give each other a chance, and the more that we give each other that way, we will be a step closer to truth and reconciliation.
Bring you my heart, bring you my memories, to guide me now on this path home.
I started working with the school boards about 12 years ago, and it started when my middle son came home from school and said to me, "Dad, we can't be Native because my friend said we were playing basketball in the driveway." And it turned the light bulb on. I gave up my job and decided it was time to educate and get people to understand and aware that we are still in your neighborhoods, we're still a growing and flourishing culture. So in the last 12 years, this is now my principal position. That's all I do, is I go into schools and I preach awareness and try to make an understanding that our people are still here every day.
It was too meaningful of an opportunity to pass off. It was an opportunity to raise awareness, to put these issues that the Indigenous people are facing at the forefront of the country, and to let people understand, like, they need to pay attention to it. They need to understand that their issues matter, that there are issues no matter, even if you don't see them, they're there. You know, even if you don't see them initially. And so we wanted to raise that awareness and show the community, the Aboriginal communities, especially those who stepped up and helped us create this whole project. Not just the canoe, all the gallery, all the performances, coming in and informing our school. We wanted to show them our support. We wanted to show them that we are here supporting their culture and are willing to learn and to listen about their experiences.
As most Canadians know, Canada was opened by the canoe. In this year of truth and reconciliation, it's important to remember these parts of Canada. Let's all work together to make sure that we continue to open Canada. The Sacred Canoe is a good step in the truth and reconciliation process.
Our message is that we want all Canadians to answer one of the 94 calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Report created by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 2011, headed by Justice Murray Sinclair, to heal the wounds of the residential school system that took children away from their parents, took them to schools where they were treated cruelly, denied a proper education, tried to take the, as they called, Indian out of these beautiful people, and now they're suffering. And we want to heal them and we want to heal Canada, because you can't move forward unless you acknowledge your true history. And the Sacred Canoe is a 4-part exploration of our true history, starting from early exploration in partnership, which created the fur trade, opened up Canada physically with the canoe, to Confederation, when the rights of First Nations people were first taken away with the Indian Act, to residential school, which we are calling a cultural genocide, to now with Truth and Reconciliation, where we send a message with the Sacred Canoe to reopen Canada spiritually and in partnership with our First Nations brothers and sisters. This is one of the most important things of our time. We encourage, we ask, we admonish Canadians to get involved. Please learn about this. Follow the path of this canoe as we strive to take it to Ottawa to send our message all across Canada. Thank you so much.
Oh, is that right? That's how you bring...